Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Is it on?
No, just give it a second.
Give it a second. Give it a second.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Good.
It's good. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What did you think of Anomalisa? How many of you are seeing this gem of a film for the very first time? Right? I know what you're thinking. Wow. Like, boy, is this a good movie to have a Q&A for, right? And this is a true gem. It's so imaginative and original, and definitely safe to say, nothing like any movie you've seen over the last year, or you will see this year, or in the next 10 years. It is one of a kind, a true vision. And here to talk about this extraordinary movie, please welcome producer Rosa Tran. And co-directors Duke Johnson and Charlie Kaufman. Well, you know, the first question is kind of a cliche, but it's a good one. And actually, this is not a cliche because this movie didn't have the kind of origins that so many other films really do. Oh, they got the script and whatever. I mean, this started with a play, and this went into a direction really that I don't think anybody could have imagined. So, what was behind the decision to turn Charlie, this play, into not just a movie, but this kind of a movie?
It wasn't my decision. You know, I'd done it as a play, and it was a kind of a stage radio play, specifically not to be seen. I mean, it was seen, but no one was doing anything on stage. The actors were reading the scripts. Carter Burwell was conducting musicians. There was a Foley artist, and the idea was that there's a distance between what you're hearing and what you're seeing. And a friend of mine named Dino Stamatopoulos was in the audience. This is in 2005, and he liked it. And he went on to found an animation studio called Starburns, where Duke and Rosa work, and they approached me in like 2011 and said they wanted to make it into a stop motion movie. So it wasn't my decision to make it into a movie or a stop motion movie.
Well,
I mean, I had to agree to it, but
well, Rosa, you know, this is not in terms of pitching this to try and get it made. It's not, you know, a slam dunk, not an easy sell. How did you make this happen, really? How did you get this ball rolling so that these filmmakers could do something so unique and original? Loaded question.
We approached a couple of traditional financiers and places, and they wanted to turn it into a series and break it up. And these guys weren't interested in doing that. They wanted a feature. So we, Duke and I, scoured the studio for an old set and old puppets, and we put together a Kickstarter video and put it online and launched a 60-day campaign and raised $406,000. And then we attracted the attention of an angel investor, and he came in and was our primary financer.
So from start to finish, from when you really started working with the pre-production and the production design to the end when you had the final cut, what was the span? How long did that take?
3 years.
3 years. And so what was, tell us about the design of Michael and Lisa.
It was a very different kind of animated film from the beginning, which is what we liked about it and what our intention was. It was decidedly adult, not for children, dealing with very sort of authentic adult emotional experiences. And we wanted to have characters that portrayed that. And we decided to base the characters off of real people.
Who are they? Just joking, I'm really expecting the answer.
Michael is modeled after my ex-brother-in-law.
Oh.
Anomalisa is a woman that Rosa first spotted at Little Dom's in Los Feliz, sitting at the bar. We approached her. Turned out she's actually an actress in LA, and they came in. We photographed them, and then, it started with photographs of them, and then they were. We had a sculptor, Carol Koch, a brilliant sculptor, who sort of interpreted them into clay maquettes, and those maquettes developed with our notes, and then those were 3D scanned and 3D printed and molded and cast. And then for the world character, it's played by Tom Noonan, we photographed everybody that was working in the studio at the time, and we combined their faces together in Photoshop. And then that sort of amalgamation was translated by the sculptor as well.
Wow. So what's it like? What's it like to fucking co-direct a live-action film like the Russo brothers or the Family brothers, the Ross brothers, the Marx brothers? But what's it like for Duke and Charlie? Tell me about the process of co-directing a film like this. Like, what if you just had different ideas?
Well, sometimes you have different ideas, and then you talk about it, and sometimes you yield to one idea, or you realize, that one idea is better, or you come up with, more often than not, you come up with a third idea that's better than the original. But for the most part, it was, the process of animation moves very slowly, so there's time to, when things arise, questions arise, that you can have discussions about things and come to a conclusion, and things evolve over time, and you're looking at things, and one of us will think of something, and that's bothering us, or that have an idea, and we'll pitch it to the other person, and then you have conversations about it, and things evolve that way. Also, animation is very front-loaded, so you can really sit there and figure everything out ahead of time. There's an animatic process, and it's sort of step by step, recording the voices and then doing the design work, and you have all these artists, and you're talking to them about your ideas, and then they're putting stuff together, and then you're looking at it, and you're giving notes, and it wasn't that
How
crazy.
much did you film each day?
We had about 13 animators on staff, and they had a daily quota of 2 seconds a day, which is 48 frames. The sex scene that you guys have just seen, the first portion of it, up to the first close-up, was took us about 6 months to accomplish that shot. The animator was doing about 9 frames a day, sadly.
But this is like a true independent film. How gratifying was it that not only did you see it through, that it got made, that it was your vision, but also that it's nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards, and that's an amazing feat right there. And also the reviews have been unanimous praise. But just how proud that you did it the way you did it. You saw all the names, the Kickstarter names there, and this is such a true independent film for it to turn out the way it did. It's like this movie is really championing independent film, and that's really important, right?
Yeah, it is. It's hard to make a movie like this. It was very, very hard for us. We were always running out of money. There are all sorts of daily stresses in this movie, and there was nobody really taking care of us except for us. So, we didn't think we were going to finish it many times. So, the money, there wasn't money for payroll. Things were being repossessed. It was a kind of a mess.
When you had those moments when you didn't think you were going to finish, and I imagine it's a horrible, horrible feeling. How did you persevere?
I think maybe we all have different answers. For me, I feel like it's just, you can't. It's sort of like desperation, like everything. It's kind of like out of desperation, It's like you gotta sort of oh my God, what if I don't finish this? I can't stop now. I've gotta finish it. I've gotta finish it. We've got to do this, and look at all we put into it, and what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to finish it?
What are you going to do indeed? It's the kind of film, like everyone I've talked to about Anomalisa, they all have different ideas of what the movie really means to them, and no one is wrong. Everyone is right. That's the beauty of an opinion, is that no one's wrong. Everyone is right. But
It's not everyone.
A lot of people. A lot of people. But guys, let me know, what were some of the good ideas that you heard without clarifying your own? Because I don't think you really want to give away.
Well, I mean, if you're asking us what the good ideas are, then we are clarifying our own by answering that, right?
No. What were some of the good interpretations that you heard from viewers of this?
They're all good, except for the ones Duke is referring to. Those are bad, but the rest of them are good. I mean, people just react to different characters, to different moments in the thing. They think things are funny. They think things are tragic. They hate certain characters. They love certain characters. The movie means something. The movie's about this or this person. I kind of really don't want to say more than that. Be more specific about it, because it does kind of like sort of narrow it a little bit to do that.
Well, I want to open it up to the audience. I'm sure there are people who have questions. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. You have a question right there. So nice and loud, please.
Sorry. Oh wait, no. I'm a big fan of Scott Mance, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, but no. Sorry. This is my third time seeing the film. First time I saw it with you guys at the Egyptian. You did a Q&A.
Wait, you know what?
Oh, sorry.
Since you're a fan, here you go.
Okay. Sorry. It's like my favorite anime film of all time. Definitely the greatest of the year.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. There's so many great things about it. Like for instance, Michael, there's a little click sound when he pushes his head back together in the final speech, or like the sex doll being Lisa. But I was wondering how you guys filmed the shot where when she's singing in Italian, girls just want to have fun, and it's reflecting Michael Stone's eyes. How that was me.
Yeah, that came about, we were setting up a shot one day, and we were getting really close on Michael, and actually, I think we were setting up the shot where Michael and Lisa are really close together, and she gets caught, they're standing in the doorway, and he sees her scar, and they're really close, and he asks her about it, and we were setting it up, and we noticed that we could see one of the puppets reflected in the other puppet's eyes, and that gave us an idea to do that during the singing moment, and that's actually done practically with no visual effects. And the animator is animating Lisa singing as a reflection in Michael's eyes, which is apparently really hard to do. But yeah, that's one of my favorite shots as well.
Why did Jennifer Jason Leigh need a vocal coach?
I think it was for the Italian, wasn't it?
Yeah, just the Italian, because she
For
had
pronunciation.
And,
Yeah.
and she just wanted to get more comfortable with the song as well.
She had a good year too.
Yeah, faithfully. It's not like he coached her performance for the movie or anything like that.
Yes, right over here.
Yep.
For the prototyping faces, for the 3D printing faces, I'm wondering whether you had performers that would do facial expressions so that the animators could do that, or was it just the animators designing it, the rapid prototype and the different faces that were used for them? Essentially, what were they based on? There was so much emotion in it, I'm wondering, was it done without any like actual visual reference of expressions, or how exactly did you do that for the different scenes?
So it's like a two-part sculpting process before it gets to animation. So basically, the sculptor sculpts the Metcats in real life in clay, and then they're scanned into the computer. And there's this program called ZBrush where ZBrush sculptors go in and they manipulate the faces for the different expressions. And we had the real life human beings, say lines and show what they look like angry, show what they look like surprised, and you have like 15 specific brow expressions. Like there's furrowed, there's worried, there's surprised, there's neutral, there's left up, there's right up, and then with the mouth there's phenomes, there's schwa and
BMP, A, E, F, all the different shapes.
Yeah, there's all these different mouth shapes, and then there's them smiling, them slightly smiling, them. So there's like about 150 different bottoms and 150 different tops, and then those are 3D printed, and what you get is like a set. Like there's millions of possible combinations. So none of the performance is actually worked out ahead of time. The animators and Charlie and myself discuss what the facial performance should be, and you know, it's also, we film the actors when we record the voices, and it's a combination of all those kind of elements together.
Yes, right over there.
So this, since it was so difficult to get money together for a project like this, how did you get such prominent actors like David Thewlis and Jennifer Lee to get on board with something like this? And were they together during the recording process?
Great question. How did you get David Thewlis and Jennifer Lee to be part of the project, and were they together when they did their voiceovers?
I did it as a play, as I said earlier, in 2005, and I called them and asked them to do it. So, and they wanted to, so they came and did it. And we had a good time. We did 2 performances at Royce Hall, at UCLA, and then I don't know, like 10 years later, however many years later, when this situation came up, I called them again, and you know, they wanted to do it again. So they came and did it. We recorded their voices. We recorded them together, which is not something that animated films usually do. They usually isolate the actor to a performance, but because actors work with other actors, and you get a more interesting and intimate performance that way. And because these actors had worked together on the play, we decided to do it basically like a play. So we did it. You know, we recorded with them for 2 days, rehearsed for 1, and it was fun, you know. And then during that process, like some things were changing. Like we had a different song in the play, and we couldn't get the rights to it. We didn't really know until that moment that we weren't going to get the rights. So we were like trying to figure out another song for Jennifer to sing, and so we had a whole bunch of choices, and that was something we worked out at the last minute during the actually found out recently during one of these Q&As that we didn't even have the rights to Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Found out during one of the Q&As.
Many years after we recorded
Yeah.
it.
I mean, they were in the booth, they were so excited, just saying Girls Just Want to Have Fun, tears streaming down their faces. They look at me, the booth, they're like, and I'm like, you know, and then it took me 2 years to clear the song.
And she never told us until like a month ago.
Which is either the sign of a really great producer or a really bad one.
If I didn't show up one day, maybe that would.
What was the original song?
My Heart Will Go On. Which was very funny on stage, and this one is much better in the movie.
Yeah, it's more rousing. You have a question over here, Lee?
How did the idea come about of Tom Noonan playing the everything role?
How did the idea of
Or everyone role?
Yeah, the everything role.
You know, the same way, I called actors that I wanted to work with. I mean, and I was fortunate that they all said yes. And you know, I really liked Tom before that, and I didn't really know him, but I was, you know, very aware of him. And I thought he had a good voice because it's sort of like, there's something sort of generic about Tom's voice, but there's also something very specific about it. I don't know exactly how to characterize it. It's also a little creepy, but also very sweet. And I needed a voice. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is that he does. I noticed that there's a sort of upward inflection at the end of the sentences, which I think I just noticed for the first time today. But I wanted somebody whose voice was like immediately recognizable, so that you would get that it was the same person, and that worked with Tom.
Yes, right there. You.
I was just wondering, at what point in the process of adapting it from a play to this format, that the element of the looseness of his puppet face and it coming off entered I don't imagine that was part of the stage play. I was just wondering how that came
Yeah,
about.
no, they weren't. I mean, there weren't puppets in the stage play, and so there were no puppet sort of references in the stage play. As soon as we decided to use that replacement animation that Duke was describing, we decided that we wanted to keep the seams. They're almost always, they're always painted out in movies that use them. But we didn't want to hide the fact that it's stop motion. You know, we wanted to sort of like incorporate that. And so once we decided to keep that, then we decided to kind of like, you know, make it part of the story. And so it was very early on.
Yes, right in the back there.
Hi, so piggybacking off of earlier question, you recorded voices together. How did the process of the radio play inform you? Did you have any Foley when you were recording?
Yeah, we recorded the actors together, just the actors. Typically, you want to isolate the sounds so that there's no overlap and you have the sound clean. But we did specifically with the actors is we had them reacting to each other and overlapping. But that's how we wanted to do, as Charlie described, because that's what actors do. They interact and react, and we felt like that would add a quality, particularly to some of these more intimate performances. But it was just the voices. And then we did what's called an animatic, which is the radio. It's called a radio play, but that's just the voices. Charlie, it's maybe confusing because Charlie also did a play, which was a sound play on stage, which we have referred to as a sort of radio play, but it wasn't on the radio. But it had Foley and sound effects.
I think she's asking if we did Foley during the recording of the actors.
Yes.
For the movie.
Yes. No, we did not. It was done for the stage performance, but then when you do an animatic, then you put temp sound. And then we did Foley later.
But we did give them food to eat and stuff to drink. And so all that stuff at the breakfast scene is real food and not really what they're eating. And also, I think David was sucking on a rolled up piece of paper when he was smoking. So, interestingly though, when we started working with the sound guys, they hired the Foley artist who did the original sound play, unbeknownst to them that this was the guy, and it was a really weird coincidence.
Got time for one more question. You.
For the international release, will it be dubbed or will it be just subtitled? Will it be full actors in different languages?
I think it's being subtitled.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be subtitled so far as
All
I
right.
know.
One more question. Okay. Yes, you.
So you talked about how this started off as a stage play. Would you go back and do it again on stage? And if so, how would the experience of doing the movie change what you do on stage?
That's a good question.
All your other questions were crap, but that's a good one.
Do you know her?
We celebrate you. Jennifer really wants to do the play again. She loves playing the character. It's so hard to get. We have to get Carter and the musicians and everybody. I think it would be hard to do. The play is really different because there's there's this disconnect. Like for example, the sex scene in the play is Jennifer and David sitting 25 feet apart from each other, moaning. That's what the audience is seeing, and so the play is very funny. And really, there's not much. It was by design that way, and there's not much you can do to change that. That's how it's going to play. So we couldn't do that in the movie. I think if the movie is something else. I think if we were to do the play again, we would do the play probably the way we did it. I think.
Well,
One more question.
One more question. Go ahead. All right, you win. You win. Make it good.
All right. Charlie, I just want to say first of all that I was profoundly moved by this, as well as by Eternal Sunshine and Synecdoche, New York, all of them. And I think especially this and Synecdoche ask the question of whether our lives are futile, whether our guises that we put out to the world are all kind of a facade. And I want to know, how difficult is it to ask an average movie-going audience to ask themselves those questions when most movies do the opposite?
That's also a good question.
It's not difficult to do. It's difficult to get people to come in and watch it. But doing it is easy. So, I don't know. Can I answer that a little bit more? Seriously? I feel like that's the movie I want to see. Those are the movies I want to see that kind of are a conversation with the audience, that aren't preaching some sort of solution to my problems. And I certainly don't feel qualified to, preach a solution to anybody's problems, but there are things I think about, and I think it's kind of, for me, it's kind of interesting to say, this is what I'm thinking, and then maybe people are interested, and want to think about that too, or want to come back with something else. I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to get people to come.
Well, can you get people to come by spreading the word on Facebook and Twitter? And
I have neither.
Well, just this whole process of making this film, this was a labor of love. It was something we believed very heavily in. but it was, you know, a challenge at every stage. It was a challenge to get the money. It was a challenge. We never got all the money until it was done. You know, it came piecemeal, convincing people that this was something that should be made, and then you know, releasing it in the world and selling it, and you know, then going to the Oscars. I read something today that we're the first R-rated animated film ever nominated, which is very strange because it's like we're like this R-rated film for adults in this category that's only ever really recognized films that are for general audiences or for children, which is a, you know, we're always kind of,
It's David and Goliath.
yeah, it's David and Goliath, and we're always the underdog trying to like kind of.
Can I say something about David and Goliath that I thought of today? I just thought this was sort of fascinating because we see ourselves as David and Goliath, and I think maybe I'm the smallest person in the field of animation, and Pete Docter is the tallest person in the field of animation. Make of that what you will.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here at this special.